Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Harvest Your Health podcast. Today, we're going to tackle the question of what are you doing as far as food? Are you letting good food go to waste by not moving? And I've got a special guest with me today, good friend and colleague, Dr. Lisa Patel. Lisa, welcome out.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you making the trip out to Harvest Hills Ranch and being on site with us today.
Oh, it was a great drive-in.
Good. Glad you enjoyed it. So Dr. Patel is a specialist in regenerative medicine. She's a chiropractor, so we share that unique bond. And she's also an expert in exercise rehabilitation, and she's going to guide us through a conversation today looking at exercise across the lifespan, but we're going to put that in the context of food and making appropriate food choices. Now, for you moms that are listening to this, we're going to definitely get to you in this conversation. But I want to start at a different portion of the lifespan, Doc. I want to start where most moms are putting a lot of their energy on a day-to-day basis, which is with their kids. With the kids, right?
Athletes, yep.
What are you seeing with athletes in your practice, young athletes in your practice right now?
I'd say over the past maybe 5 to 8 years, I've seen they're going year round, right? They're being put in the weight room. They're not given proper nutrition guidance. They're not hydrating properly. And so there's a lot that I've seen kind of shift over the past 5 to 8 years of what we used to see these young athletes. They were just year round and your common overuse injuries. But now we're seeing, I'm seeing things like disc herniations in 14, 15-year-olds. And it's just they're doing too much without the recovery, without the proper nutrition. And so those are first and foremost things that I talk to all my athletes when they come in there. What are you eating? How much water are you drinking? What are you doing for your recovery? So that's basically where we've seen that shift in our practice.
So I'm trying to think about this from the mom's perspective here, because I can hear some of the moms going, that's not my kid.
Right.
But the truth is that it probably is their kid, right?
100%.
So can you give us what does it really look like for a kid who is overtrained or who's in the pipeline to be overtrained? What are they doing to set them up for that?
It's as far as overtraining, right? You've got, they're being put in sports. It's not just one sport, it might be multiple sports, and they're going year round with it. For us, the biggest thing that we're seeing with the weight room is there's no guidance. I didn't pick up a barbell until I was in my 30s, and these kids are being thrown in there, having to do deadlifts and squats and all sorts of stuff that we really didn't do. We were running, we were out doing body weight stuff. And so they're being set up for failure almost, it feels like injury, lifetime chronic injuries that we see 40, 50-year-olds now that these kids are going to have to deal with when they get to that age. And so I know a lot of times too, the kids don't express pain to their parents, right? Yeah. They're not going to tell them that I'm hurting because the coach is going to put them out and they don't want to not play.
Yeah.
So that's where where we really dig into these kids' heads of, hey, you have to speak up. You have to tell us when something's not right. You have to tell us when you're tired. And you can't play because you feel like you're out of breath or whatever the case is. There might be some underlying stuff going on that we need to assess. So,
I want to just clarify something too. I don't want something you said to get misinterpreted. You're not saying don't lift weights.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
That's not what you're saying.
Right. No, correct.
What we want to emphasize here is that you're really suggesting that there needs to be that balance between performing the activity, but also maximizing the recovery side.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Where do you see on the recovery side that, where are we missing? Where are parents and kids missing it at on the recovery side?
I think a lot, aside from, we offer cryotherapy and all of the, teaching them foam rolling and all of that, but I think they lack in nutrition, right? We're on a gotta go day to day. I've got 3 boys myself and they're all very athletic. They all play sports. So it's go to work, come home, get them fed, get to practices, get them, it's always on the go. Mm-hmm. And I feel like because of that, we're quick to say, oh shoot, we didn't make lunch or whatever the case, let's grab Chick-fil-A on the way out, or let's grab XYZ because it's convenient and it's quick. But over the grand picture of everything, it's just doing more harm by not putting in that time on the back end.
It's funny to me, you said the Chick-fil-A. I think that is the default stop,
yes,
or the default response of where we're going to go after practice.
As long as it's not Sunday, right?
Exactly. It seems like everybody wants to go to Chick-fil-A. There's an assumption that Chick-fil-A is just the best option out there, but it's still fast food. and it's still not meeting the nutritional requirements that these young athletes have.
Not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll give you a story. I had a high school track and field kid come in with chronic hamstring strain. He was finally sent to my office, and we're sitting there talking about his injury. And then I asked, what do you eat before your meets? And he looked at me, he goes, well, I had Fruity Pebbles last time. And I just was like, and of course, Dad's sitting right there, and I look at the dad and I said, there has to be changes. And he goes, well, I tell him all the time not to. I said, you're the parent, like, you gotta be involved in this just as much as they need to, because they don't know yet. They don't know what's good. They're being fed through the media and all this other stuff. And so if you put it in the house, they're gonna eat it. And that's basically, I put it on both of them, you know? And so this is what we're seeing, is that we think, oh, it's common sense to know to eat healthy, but really, they're not being given the proper information up front. And so we do have to do that for them, is, hey, this isn't right, so
what I'm hearing and what you're sharing is that there has to be structure in the way that the nutrition is aligned with the recovery process. That has to be a diligent conversation.
Yes.
The parents have to take part in that. They have to play an active role there. Is there anything else there that I'm overlooking that listeners need to think about?
I mean, overall, with these kids, first thing I tell them is, what you put in is what you're going to put out, right? Yeah. What you put in your body is what you're going to put out in the field. That's basically what it is. And then at the end of the day, when there is an injury, what do we need? Nutrients for healing. Yeah. And so if we're not giving the body proper nutrients, then we are seeing them not healing for 3-4 weeks, and they are being put out of their sport or whatever the case is. But if we give them the right tools to allow their body to heal, if that is the case, then you'll see it a lot quicker.
There's two things that stand out to me with what you're saying. The first is that when these injuries occur, yes, there's the overuse activity, right? So there's definitely that part, but that is also likely an alarm bell going off, telling the body, hey, something's not right. Yep. I'm not getting the resources that I need. And I don't think we tend to think about it, but when you have an injury, and this is the second point, is that your nutritional demands don't stay the same.
Right.
They're increased.
Exactly.
So you have to even be more diligent about what your food consumption is.
Because they're still keeping up with your day-to-day, processing and everything. And now you got an injury in it. So now all the other stuff has to work double time to get that injury healed. So.
Yeah. Well, I promised the moms that we would get to them, and you know how this plays out just like I do, and every mom's gonna be like, yep, that's me when I say this. When the kids are out there training, the parents might as well be training as well, because they're chasing the kids to their athletic events. They're starting to skimp on various parts of their schedule. The things that they usually do as part of their activities of daily living get adjusted to compensate for staying with the kids. How does that translate into moms that you see in practice?
So they're I could almost define them as an athlete themselves, right? Like, they wake up early, they have to keep going and going. And so I know so many moms that even at 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm tired, I'm fatigued, I didn't get enough sleep. They're drinking coffee all day long. And it's just, you see how their burnout just as much, right? And so again, like, going back to me, for a while I was a single mom. I've got 3 kids, and I have my own practice, and it's always on the go. I'm waking up at 5, getting my kids to school, getting to work, bringing them home. And so until I finally took control of my own health of, okay, I'm done having kids, I want to get back to where I need to be. It really, I would have gone in a spiral downhill, right? Like that fatigue that you get, and then you get into your 40s and 50s, and guess what? Perimenopause is right around the corner, so the weight gain's coming along and all this other stuff. And so I feel like if we don't get ahead of that, it takes a little bit of time and patience to be able to do it. But once you get to that, it's so much more functioning, I guess you could say, of a day.
Yeah.
So,
you mentioned athletes. And I think so many moms may say to themselves, I used to be an athlete when I was younger, and they don't look at themselves as an athlete anymore. But I think, for whether it's male or female, I think that's a disservice that individuals do to themselves, because you have to think about yourself as an athlete, because that translates to functionality. How functional are you just in the things that you need to do every day?
Exactly. And it all falls into place after that. If you can't bend over and pick up a a case of water because your back hurts, like that's your day-to-day stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like it'll translate all day long, and you'll never feel like you're out of that negative cycle if you don't catch it ahead of time.
And you've heard this just like I have. Many individuals will translate that as, well, I'm getting older, right? And you get that dumped off as it's an age factor. It's not an age factor.
It's not. I know. I don't like to use the word old in my office. I actually tell my patients you're not allowed to use that in my office.
Use it.
Because it's wear and tear. What did you do through your life? It's like, how many miles did you drive a day, right? Your car. Like if you have an hour-long commute versus my commute is 10 minutes, obviously I don't have to do as many oil changes and whatever keeping up, but the people that are out there doing the hour-long commutes, their cars are breaking down a lot quicker. It's the same thing with our body. Just like you said, I always tell my patients, like, your pain in your body is your body's check engine light going on.
Yep.
It's saying, hey, something's not right, and where is it coming from? Do something about it. And you keep going on that, then it's just going to cause that cascade of other problems that are going to keep going from there.
Where do moms that find themselves in this situation that we're defining, we want to give them a solution. They need to be able to feel comfortable in taking that first step. What is that first step to get them back to the overall context of this conversation, to take that food and actually make that food translate into optimal health for them?
So I think there's always a fear, right? Like, oh, I don't think I could do this like diet or whatever the case is, right? So for me, I always tell them, start small. Start with one meal. Start with breakfast. Make it as healthy as possible. Then move on to the next one, right? And so it's a time management thing of what do you want to put into your day-to-day? Like, do you want to be scrolling on your TikTok, or do you want to spend an hour prepping for tomorrow's meal for breakfast or whatever the case? And I always say, if you've got athletes in the house, you should be eating like athletes in the house, no matter parent or what, because they're watching you and what you do. And so if you want them to be brought up with the same mentality of, hey, I need you eating this, they got to see us eating it too. Like, I'm not going to serve my kid, you know, you got to eat this healthy meal and I'm eating pizza on the side. Like, it just and if you do it at a younger age, that's why I love working with youth athletes, is that we do it at a younger age. For them now, they're set for life. Like, that's my goal as a parent, right? Make them healthier than I ever was, make them more successful than I ever will be. And so I think that when it comes down to moms, like, I think once you get past that little barrier of like, I can't do it, and you see how much easier it is, it becomes routine. It's like me, like today, Sundays, usually I go get groceries, I spend the afternoon meal prepping for the week, because I know by the time I get home from work, I can't sit and cook dinner for 2 hours, and because they've got to be at practice or this or that. And so it takes a little bit of time management and putting it in there, but once it is, then it's so much easier. And they grow up and they're gone in no time. So.
And I think it's important to also acknowledge that it doesn't matter if you've got a teenager and things haven't been optimal, you haven't been the optimal example for what to do from a dietary standpoint, just start.
Just start.
In some way, there's almost an advantage to waiting later, simply because the kid sees that, okay, my parents later in life, they're making this step forward, they can do it at any point. Well, why can't I do this as a teenager, right? There's really no excuse to do it.
Exactly. And for me, like back in 2019 is really when I wanted to get my health back to where I needed it to be. And I knew with young kids, my youngest I think was only like 3 or 4 years old, and you know, all active and whatnot, I didn't have the time to cook. I really didn't, in all honesty, like even maybe a little bit here and there. So I went to a meal prepping company. I mean, at least for that first 6 months, and I'll tell you, like, no matter how much I tell my patients, 75% of it is your diet. You want to lose weight, work with the diet first. And so in 2019, I started with a meal prepping company. I did my breakfast and lunch with them, completely clean food. And then dinners were just, you know, I'm Indian, we eat Indian food certain nights. And so I couldn't eliminate all fats and carbs and whatnot. But in that 6 weeks of being on that diet, I was working out 3 times a week for 20 minutes only. So I wasn't a gym rat. Like, I wasn't in there for 2 hours at a time, just, you know, pumping weight. In 6 weeks, I lost 6% body fat. 6 weeks, just by cleaning up 2 of my meals. So, I mean, it's there. You know, I get a lot of people that tell me, you don't look like you have kids. Yeah, I don't, because I work towards it. You know, I put the work into it. It's not easy. I don't have good genes. I don't have the metabolism anymore like I used to. And so that time has to be put into that. So,
you know, this is one of the things that I love, and here at Harvest Hills Ranch, we've been really intentional about how we bring food to individuals, and we have it set up now where it's someone can go online, they can order, and it shows up on their doorstep, right? And so it's very easy to say, well, I don't have time to go find good food. There's not
anymore.
There's not an excuse on that, right? And so you can literally just spend a few minutes, place your order online, and it shows up on your doorstep, right? And so you've got clean options that you can immediately integrate into your lifestyle.
And 9 times out of 10, it's cheaper when you do it that way. Like, I can't tell you how many times I've gone to lunch with coworkers or whatever, and I'm spending $20 on crap. I'm sorry, but I could have spent that $20 on 2 clean meals if I really put the time into it.
I'm so glad. Yes.
It really is. Like, people see it as like, oh, I can't afford it. But in actuality, one, you're going to afford it. You'll be able to afford the food, but then what about your health 20 years from now?
Yeah.
What's more affordable, eating maybe a couple dollars more a meal, or dealing with lifetime of ailments that you're going to have to face later?
I'm so glad you didn't shy away from saying that, because that's the reality of how individuals make choices when it comes to food. It's very much looked at as the here and now, and not looked at with a longevity perspective. You're going to pay somewhere.
Exactly.
You're going to pay somewhere. So you might as well have optimal health and pay on the front end and enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not saying I'm completely strict with my kids. You know, we do go to birthday parties and they do eat pizzas and the cake and whatnot, but where I can keep it clean, I'm going to do as much as I can. I think that the very first time I actually was intuitive of what my kids were eating was when my oldest son, when he was a baby and we had just started him on baby food. Well, back then it was the Gerbers and the little squeezy pouches, and it's easy. And, you know, I was working mom and I was pregnant with my second one, and it was easy. And there it was, a recall on Gerber with lead in the food. And that was my breaking point. And it just made me stop and understand, like, we're supposed to raise these kids into being healthy, right? And that was the moment I stopped completely, you know, packaged stuff. I think I stopped doing canned goods. I bought an Instant Pot. So easy, such simple things. There's so many YouTube channels out there that you can look up recipes and whatnot. Like, and after I did, like, I was making their own baby food. Like, I would just go buy fresh fruits and vegetables, and I'd boil it all down on a weekend, and I'd have containers of baby food sitting there, and it was fresh. It wasn't, you know, I didn't have to worry, is there lead in this? You know? So,
and something you shouldn't have to worry about to begin with, right?
And as they get older now, that's the other part of it. Like, I have a hard time going to the grocery store. I try to eat as much, or, you know, bring in as much organic and whatnot, but how much time do we have to sit and read labels at the store? And the more you read labels, the more you put down stuff. I've stopped completely buying cereals and all sorts of different things that, I was in Portugal a couple weeks ago, and of course I have my 3 boys, my brother has 2 girls. They wanted cereal in the morning. So we go down to a shop. We don't sell cereal here. Why not? Doesn't that not make you think, like, why not, you know? So it does become complicated, right? When you're at the grocery store and you're like, what do I do? What do I get? And when you have resources like your guys', you know, foods and whatnot, you don't have to question where it's coming from.
Well, and that's the reason I always point to what you mentioned, labels, right? I think a lot of times individuals get what I call label lust, right? And so what I mean by that is that they'll see a term on a label and they get fixated on that term, like it checked a mental box for them, and they feel like the more labels that are on that food package and that check, the better it is. But the truth behind that is that those labels are on there not by virtue of the interest of the nutrition of the food, but they're on there because the marketing company, the marketing department behind that packaged food knew that would attract the attention of the consumer. That's how that reality plays out, and most people don't think about it like that.
Not at all.
Forgive me for kind of jumping on a tangent here for a minute, but this is really, like, you're talking about with patients and kids because like you're trying to develop a relationship with them to help them understand what choices they need to make, just like we at the ranch are trying to help individuals develop a relationship with their food and their producer, so you can feel comfortable and have an element of trust in what you're doing or what you're consuming.
Right, exactly. It's almost scary.
It is. But we've given.
I think that there's a shift in where things are going now with what administration, whatever you want to call it, right? Like we're starting to see people more aware of what is being put in our foods and what is being put in our soap, detergents, and all sorts of stuff. And I think that there's going to be a break in the whole thing soon, hopefully. But and we're ahead of the game with it. But I think that hopefully it starts to get easier for people too at some point.
Yeah, well, and that's a great statement, because making good food choices shouldn't be this hard.
No.
It really should not be.
Not at all. I mean, I grew up, I remember like our era was an era of convenience. Finally, there was canned goods on the shelves that you could keep there for 3-4 years or whatever, right? Like we grew up on Pepsi and Coca-Cola cans. Like I remember my parents would buy 2-liter bottles because they were on sale for 79 cents. Yeah. So let's just get the max 10 that we could, and they'd be lined up in our garage, and it was just like, the era of convenience put us into such a bad state of health over the years. Like, I go back to, I don't have a single canned good in my house unless it's like something that I fall back on, like weather, whatever the case, I just have it there just in case. But otherwise, there's no need for it. There really isn't. Easier
doesn't mean better.
No, not at all. And I'll tell you, it's easier for me to throw something in an Instant Pot and walk away, come home after work, and it's already done in there. Yeah. So I don't know how much easier it can get.
That's so true. That's so true. So I want to touch on just a few other quick things here with you. So we've talked about the food here, but for the mom that's looking to keep the momentum going, she obviously realizes that exercise is going to have to play a part here as well. What's a first step back into exercise that these moms can engage in?
I think the first thing is go for a walk. 30 minutes of walking a day. You know, it doesn't have to be aggressive, especially if you're in your like 30s, 40s. Like we need resistance training, and that's it. Light resistance, keep our bones stressed so we don't get the osteoporosis and the osteopenia. And it's simple. I grew up in a culture, like I'm one of the few female girls, like I have 64 first cousins.
Oh, wow.
64 first cousins, and I'm one of the few of the girls that actually goes and works out. And I get almost, it's one of those things where when I go to see them, wow, like, do you eat enough? And I'm like being told this by overweight family members, do I eat enough? And I'm like, I'm absolutely healthy. Like it's almost scary. And so, but like, you just like your food, start small. Because the second you overdo it, that's when you want to stop, right? Or you get hurt or whatever the case. Like have some guidance. If there's a trainer or somebody that you have guidance from, get somebody to slowly work into that. Because again, we don't want you to go too quickly and get injured and then you're out not wanting to do it ever again. And so even walking 30 minutes a day can do so much for your cardiac health, right? Like it doesn't have to be aggressive. Grab a couple pounds of dumbbells with you on your walk and use it for resistance. It's little things. We're I don't know about for women like myself, we're moving all the time. It's just we've got to add that little bit of resistance on there. So
even doing something as simple as 10 minutes of walking after eating a meal has been shown to be able to improve blood sugar. I mean, something so simplistic as doing that. Now, I think it would be amiss if we didn't acknowledge that injuries, degeneration occurs in life, right? And you do have to factor that in. So you also have significant experience in regenerative therapies as well. So I would like for you just to give an introduction to what that really means for those that aren't familiar with that, maybe what some of the options are that they have on the table that they don't even know about.
Okay, so I'll kind of get into how I got into regenerative therapy. As a chiropractor, the whole thing with having medical services, and we had to be careful and legal aspect and whatnot. And so when I was younger, I'd say about 8 to 10 years ago is really when I, started to hear the stem cells. What is this? And we know what they are, but really what are they being used for? And so I actually had gone to a seminar, and it was a intermittent fasting company. And what their whole thing was that You do intermittent fasting for 5 days. The first couple days are cosmetic. You lose a little bit of fat, your body kind of resets, but it's really in the 4th and 5th days that your body is in an anti-inflammatory state. Once your body is in an anti-inflammatory state, your stem cells can start to correct your ailments, right? Like they're actually functioning to fix more deeper rooted ailments versus your day-to-day, oh, you're fatigued, oh, you ate something bad, so now your stomach is inflamed. And so then those stem cells are really focused on being able to heal our bodies, right? As we age, so stem cell, regenerative therapy stem cells, as we're developing, our stem cell count is up here. As we start to stop development, our stem cell count goes down, but our ailments go up. And so they can't keep up with it, right? And so the whole concept of anti-inflammatory diet, it's such a big thing, right? Like starting with an anti-inflammatory diet improves your fatigue, improves your mental focus, improves all of how your body's functioning, because now all your stem cells that you do have are going to be working towards helping correcting all your other ailments.
Yeah.
So that's really where the focus of my, practice became of like, okay, we can help injuries, we can fix an elbow tendonitis, but really like what's going on in the deeper side of it. And so I had a lot of my patients starting with that intermittent fasting diet. I saw such huge improvements in pain, like pain alone.
Yeah.
Just them not seeing as much, and it was like, oh, I feel great. I don't need to come back, and then that also helped them change their lifestyle of their eating habits, because then they saw the improvement of I'm not in pain anymore, and now I can do this physical activity. My energy levels are up, so I can go to the gym, and I want to go to the gym. And so obviously with the regenerative therapy now, we've kind of stepped it up to where, we have a nurse practitioner, medical director, that they do injectables for ailments, injuries, degenerative disc, and that type of stuff. And so, but overall, even with that, the very first thing we tell our patients, if you're doing stem cells, this is your protocol, anti-inflammatory diet for at least 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Because we want them to work, and we want the body to reset, and we want things to get back to where they need to start healing. So, yeah.
You obviously have to create a landscape in the body where healing is going to be optimized at. And are these the type of therapies that for individuals that have tried more conservative approaches that really haven't gotten the results that they're looking for, and they're looking to they're thinking, well, what's next? Where is this direction they go?
And that's basically why I got into it, right? Like chiropractic, you hit a plateau. I can't fix a grade 2 strain in an ACL. I could probably rehab the hell out of it for 6 months, and they do okay, but will that tear go away? Yeah. And so I kind of hit this wall of like, every time I sent a patient out for a referral to orthopedic, he's cutting in on them. And now I'm dealing with 6 months of rehab. And so there was this like, I don't want them to go that route, but then I can't just keep them in my office as a chiropractor. And so that's when I really like, I was doing the whole intermittent fasting, and then that's where I really took my practice of like, I don't want them to do that. I want them to do this and let the body heal naturally. And just the response we've gotten. I mean, I've got an 82-year-old patient that had spinal stenosis up and down his back. And at that point in his life, they were like, all right, you need surgery. He did the nerve ablation. He did all this steroid shots and PT and everything you can imagine. This was 2 years ago. He came to our office, and he came in to do cryotherapy. I was like, what does an 80-year-old need cryotherapy for? And so I started talking to him. Long story short, he ended up doing regenerative therapy, stem cells in his back with us. 2 years later, he's driving around Katy in a Corvette. Not a lick of back pain. Just hanging out, living the life.
At 82.
At 82. Yep. Complains of a little bit of neuropathy in his feet, but he was like, if I could live like this that's all I have, then I'm good.
Yeah.
So there's a lot. We've seen just remarkable outcomes with it all, and it's gratifying. Mm-hmm. It's finally at this like part of my practice where I feel like I've, younger practice days was just getting your feet wet, learning, practice. And now it's like, okay, putting all of it together. Yeah. When being introduced to you back almost 15 years ago.
I know.
And the nutrition aspect and all of the things that kind of put me where I am now, I couldn't have done it with all those components that played into where we need to be. So.
Yeah, it's fun to be able to step back now and have the experience and the perspective to look at all of those elements and figure out where they all work together at. yeah, that's a lot of
And
fun.
prior to even like your guy having the ranch, like about 3-4 years ago, that was in my mind. I just want to get off the grid and grow my own food and grow my, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the foods that we're having to feed our kids or given to us, right? And so there was a point where I'm like, I don't want the city life anymore. And so when you told me about this, I was like, I'm actually just coming out here to check out how easy it is to put a place like this together.
I don't know if I've ever had a chance to tell you, and viewers may find this interesting, but what really allowed us to make the jump, like the mental shift that allowed us to make the jump, was when I was seeing patients still face-to-face, brick and mortar environment. And we were sending patients out to the farmer's market. We were sending them other areas to try to find the foods that I knew that they needed to consume. And they would come back to me and go, I can't find what you're, I just can't find what you're telling me to go find. I'm like, this is crazy. I'm not telling you to go find something that's
outrageous.
Yeah, that's that esoteric, right? I mean, you should be able to go find this. And we finally, Leah was really integral in pushing me on this, but there was just that breaking point where we said, if it's not available, I'm going to be the resource and I'm going to make it available, right? It's just, it shouldn't be, like we talked about earlier, it shouldn't be this difficult.
No.
So,
and even that, playing on that too, like I'm at the point in my practice where I'm bringing people along of, you have that resource. I have another resource with somebody else. I literally have merged my practice with multiple businesses now. I had a cryotherapy place that she was running for about 10 years, chilled cryo spa. She just merged with me last year where I was almost like a competitor to her, and we thought, why not bring it all together? We have the brains of being able to take over even just our little community. Why are we competing when we should be putting together all of our brains and bringing to the masses what we have to offer? And that's where when you came along, I was just like, this is the perfect timing for all of this, is all falling into place for my practice and the way the direction that we're going in. So.
Yeah, and that's that mindset of working from abundance and not from scarcity, right? And I think that's just sheerly one of the other advantages to being more experienced and having more time in practice is that you do begin to think differently about how you approach things. So
exactly.
I always love sitting down and chatting with you. It's always a fun conversation. I know we could sit here forever and keep going. But for those that are interested in learning more about you, about your practice, what's the best place for them to find that information?
You can find us. So we're merging our practice right now. Texas Rich is the name of my practice. We're out in Katy, and we are merging. So Wellness Revolution is going to be the overall umbrella name. You can look us up on wellnessrevolutiontx.com. Or the Texas Rich, it's Texas Rich, all spelled out, TEXASRICH, the number 2020.com, and it should have all of our information there.
Great, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
I think you've given not just perspective on about the biochemistry of the body when it comes to nutrition, on being physical, but when you step back and you look at those things, there's a mental shift that takes place with what you've shared a lot today too, and I appreciate you bringing that forth. I appreciate all of you joining for another episode of the Harvest Your Health podcast. Make sure you come back for more in the very near future.